Alright, let's get this started. If this is the first ever video you're watching of mine, hello, welcome to my channel. My name's Matt. I make videos here on YouTube, and I also just finished up my freshman year of college at Harvard. It's been a while since we just sat down and chatted, and I have so many things to update you all on, and I figured that there would be some questions as well. So we're gonna kill two birds with one stone and do an updated Q&A as well as the things I learned my freshman year of college. Funny enough, I'm pretty sure the first ever sit-down YouTube video I made on this channel was the things that I learned my freshman year of high school.
Yes, I did that.
Do not go back and watch that video. I can't even bring myself to watch vlogs that I posted a year ago. However, we're really coming full circle with this video. For planning purposes, I'm gonna start with questions, and then I think that'll naturally transition into talking about my freshman year of college because there were a lot of college questions asked. One of the questions I got asked a lot was, what are your summer plans? And I've been meaning to update you all, but it didn't really make sense to me to just throw it randomly in a vlog, so I waited till I could do some sort of sit-down video like this. In classic Matt Traub fashion, I have put a lot of things on my plate for the summer. The first of which is just continuing to pour myself and my energy into this YouTube channel and my other social media platforms, which are my own. I've been making videos for well over 4 years now, which is insane to think about, and this will always just be my little hobby and passion project. However, I'm really proud to say that it is now turning into my own job. And so with the numerical growth that I've had over the last year, as well as growth on the more professional business side of social media, I can now say that this is a job, which is exciting. On top of YouTube, I also have a more traditional internship with a tech startup called Hoobie in Boston. I've been following Hoobie myself for a while now since they are in the social media space. However, I really wanted to see if I could get involved this summer on more of the business behind the scenes. So as of last week, I'm officially an intern. I am helping out with data analysis and analytics, marketing, operations, kind of whatever they throw at me, I'm here for. The next couple of questions are about reading, which I definitely anticipated because I've been sharing lots about my reading journey on my socials over the last couple of months. It's been quite the process, but it's been very fun to tap back into this part of my life, and it honestly makes me feel like a little kid again. Like when I get in bed and I grab my book, I feel like I'm back in my Diary of a Wimpy Kid era. I'm currently reading 2 books, the first of which is Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book is changing my life. I'm only like 70 pages in and I've already taken so much from this book. I'm very excited to finish it and to continue applying the things that I learned in this book to my life. I mentioned in a vlog recently that I think I have good intentions but bad habits, so it's definitely something that I am working on, and this is the go-to book for it. I am also reading Daisy Jones and the Six right now by Taylor Jenkins Reid, one of my favorite authors, and this book is already fantastic as well. I could never read 2 fiction books at the same time because knowing me, I would get the characters and the storylines crossed, but I feel like it's a good balance to have a motivational self-help book and a book for enjoyment. What am I studying? I'm currently pursuing an honors degree in economics, which I've been pretty set on for a while now, and the real question now is just if I want to pursue any potential secondaries. I'm really interested in the intersection between economics and public policy. I always have been, so the natural route for that is to do a secondary in government. However, recently I found myself being interested in some different things that I never really thought I would be. With some of the things that I'm learning in my class right now, as well as my internship being in the tech space this summer, I have found myself wanting to learn more about CS, computer science. Still very wary on that one, but even if I don't decide to do CS as a course of study, I definitely want to take some computer science classes during my time at college because I feel like living in the 21st century, it's just good to know the background and the foundational principles about some of that stuff. I have found myself being pulled more and more to that space recently, so I'm gonna go with it and see where it takes me. On top of that, I'm also currently pursuing a language citation in Mandarin Chinese, which is not very new for me. I took Chinese all of high school, and it's something that I absolutely love and I want to continue, as the obvious goal is to be fluent one day. A citation is kind of a weird term. The way that I interpret it is that it's just a weird version of a minor. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure getting a minor or secondary in Chinese would involve me taking history classes, culture classes, maybe even some art classes as well, which I would eventually love to do, but I'm a lot more focused on solely learning the language right now. I get that question on almost every single one of my videos, so I hope that clears it up a little bit. And who knows, could be subject to change. Will you be studying abroad? Maybe. TBD. I would love to go abroad. Harvard offers incredible abroad programs, and I feel like there are very few times in my life that I would be able to just uproot my entire life and go live in a new country for say 6 months and just learn and live in a new culture. I also would probably kill to go run around Europe for a couple months and do that abroad experience. However, at least in college, I only will really have one opportunity to go abroad, and to not go to China and do language immersion kind of seems like a mistake to me. As I said, the ultimate goal one day is to be fluent in Mandarin, and so going to a native language speaking country would really help me along that journey. I surprisingly got a lot of questions about my housing plans for next year, and upperclassmen housing at Harvard is a huge deal for some reason, so let me lay this out for you. Harvard has 12 or 13, I think it's 13, upperclassmen houses that you essentially get sorted into Harry Potter style at the end of your freshman year. There's a lot of different Harvard traditions that surround this day. There's River Run, and then we have an entire housing day where upperclassmen from each house will dorm storm your dorm to drop off your letter that tells you what house you're gonna be in. I slept through mine, so I didn't really have the traditional housing day experience that everyone else did. However, I will be living in an upperclassman house next year. I got placed into Lowell House. Slay! If you know, you know. Lowell is commonly referred to as the nicest upperclassman house, so it's safe to say I was very excited when I opened that letter. I got a lot of questions along the lines of, was Harvard hard this year? What was your transition like? Did you get homesick? What was it like living in a dorm? And so I'm gonna take all of those and mash them together. I can say with 100% certainty that my transition to college, getting used to a college lifestyle, just dealing with the day-to-day of what it's like being a college student was way more difficult for me than any class that I took this year. In all honesty, I had a really hard time transitioning to college, but through that transition, I learned more about myself in the last 8 months than I maybe have ever. I've been trying to vocalize this recently, but it's not all the way there, so bear with me. But I think there's a level of grieving that no one really talks about when transitioning to college. Grieving's a really strong term, so maybe it's not that, but I almost felt like there was a death of my old life, and there were a lot of things within that I had a really hard time coming to terms with. The fact that my home life was changing and the way that I live at home would never be the same. Uprooting and having to change the way my relationship works with my brothers and with my parents. Watching all of my friends go off to new schools and make new friends and live in new cities, and to no one's fault, I almost felt like I was getting left behind a little bit, and I didn't know how to deal with that. To put it plainly, the first semester of college sucks. And I feel like that's a pretty general consensus, no matter if you go to a city school, if you go to school in the middle of nowhere, big school, small school, it just kind of sucks.
Did you guys hear that? I'm scared.
But in my opinion, working through that suckiness and building your routines and finding new people and finding new things that you love is gonna teach you more than any class would. And to address the homesickness thing, yeah, 100%. I live in the Boston area, so it only takes me like 15 minutes to get to campus, so it does sound kind of silly when I say that I'm homesick, but I think it was just an extension of the way that I was feeling and dealing with my transition. I've also always dealt with homesickness, like it's so bad. I've been to 2 sleepaway camps, and both times I have left early. I have made such a scene at the camp that they've let me leave early. That's how homesick I get. And while it's not nearly as bad as it used to be, it definitely did creep in a little bit during those early days of school when I wasn't settled into a routine yet and I had to go eat a meal by myself or go to the library by myself. But again, sitting in that and working through that was one of the most transformative things to happen to me, and I am all the better for it, and you will be too. The classic question, how do you deal with mental health changing, and how do you deal with comparing yourself to others and feeling like you're not good enough? This is a daily struggle, and I don't think I will ever stop comparing myself to others. I think that's really baked into human nature, but I have done a lot of work over the past year in dealing with that, in finding ways to combat it. One of my favorite quotes ever is, "Comparison is the thief of joy," and I actually just posted a TikTok the other day talking all about this, so if you want a more long-winded answer, you can go check that video out. One of the best ways of framing this that I've heard, and something that's been really important for me, is that you should never compare yourself to others. If anything, you should be comparing yourself to old versions of you. And changing that narrative has completely changed the way that I think about myself and the the way that I move through day-to-day life. This is baked into every aspect of life too. Academics, athletics, body image, probably anything that you think about, you in one way or the other have compared yourself to others. And I do it too, but I always try to take a step back, and I'll give you an example. I don't have a brain for STEM. I never have. I'll probably never take a science class again, but if I compared my experience to a pre-med student in my class, then I'd probably always feel disappointed. But then again, I have strengths and accomplishments that maybe some of those students don't. I am a great writer. I love public speaking. I love performing. And so comparing myself to a version of myself, say 5 years ago, that was terrified of getting up in front of an audience, that was always insecure about my writing and my abilities, I'm really proud of the progress that I've made. And I'm not disappointed about not reaching the goals and strengths of other people. Does that make any sense? I hope that was a good answer. Another question I got was, keeping Harvard aside, is attending college worth it? 1,000,000%. I also truly believe though that college isn't for everyone, and depending on the type of person that you are, the type of work that you want to do, college may not be for you. However, number one, if you have the means to attend university, and if you also are passionate about something that you think aligns with what you'll learn at college, then it is 100% worth it. And to reiterate some of the things that I said earlier, I can say that my freshman year of college was worth it, probably less because of what I learned in the classroom. I learned so much more about myself, about my passions, about the type of person I am, the type of people I want to surround myself with, and other things like that. That's going to take me a lot farther on my journey than, say, anything I would learn in a simple lecture. So for that reason alone, I will say attending college in the way that I do is 100% worth it, but that's not to say that it's the same for everyone. So for some people, that may be trade school, that may be commuting to school, going to community college. Every single one of those are all equally as valid as the degree that I'm getting. A lot of those answers were very long-winded, and a lot of the remaining questions have to do with what I'm going to talk about next, so I think it's time we move on to what I learned my freshman year of college. I've broken this down into 4 main categories, all of which could be their own separate videos, so if there's something that I kind of hit on this video or don't at all, feel free to reach out because I'm happy to share my perspective. The categories are academics, social life, relationships, platonic and romantic, and then just a couple things about myself and random little tidbits that I have written down. There are 2 common sayings that I've heard my entire life but have never really resonated until this year, and that is work smarter, not harder, and done is better than perfect. Some may consider this bad advice. I really wish I heard this going into college, that a lot of times you don't have to read the textbook. You don't have to do that extra problem set. You don't have to go to that extra meeting with your professor where they talk about close to nothing. There is so much to do in college. The information overload is at times debilitating, and you just need to figure out what's important to you and what has to get done, and then you can work smarter, not harder. The second little saying, done is better than perfect, is something that I'm still continuing to work on every single day of my life, but it is one of the most important things I've ever been told. In general, academics is typically where my OCD tendencies like to come up, and so for my entire life, literally from kindergarten to my senior year of high school, perfect was done. There was no other way. Every single assignment, I would take the extra 2 hours to make sure everything was pristine, every T was crossed, every I was dotted, and for a while that worked because I pretty much poured myself solely into academics, but I've realized now that I'm so much more than that, and I simply just don't have the time to do that anymore. It's been a really long and honestly hard process getting myself to dial back and not spending that extra 3 hours on the paper or that hour on the problem set. But I've realized that those hours only lead to a very marginal improvement in my grades, and I can use that time to do other things that feed my soul and my energy, like spend time with friends, film a YouTube video, go move my body and get a sweat in. Again, this is still a daily struggle for me, and I'm not anywhere close to where I hope to one day be with this saying, but I'm working on it. Another thing that I really wanted to hit on in the context of academics is the notion that all institutions, specifically Harvard, are pressure cooker environments. Yes, this is my experience, and it could be different based on any student that you talk to, but I truly believe that the pressure cooker environment is only as real as you make it. I feel like a lot of times students preach against it and then actually feed into it themselves. Now, this probably depends on the school that you go to and the course of study that you're pursuing, but I go to a school that is commonly referred to as the most pressure-filled environment, and I really haven't found that thus far. And that's because I don't let myself get caught up in it. All the time I hear conversations about people romanticizing all-nighters in the library and being competitive with friends about grades, and honestly, I just want to go up to them and be like, Like, get a grip. If you know what you value and you surround yourself with people that uplift you and support you and don't tear you down, then this probably won't be an issue for you. I'm sure it's clear from my YouTube videos and from the content that I put out on other platforms that I'm a pretty driven and persistent kid. When I get started on something or I put my mind to something, it's very hard for me to stop, and I'm just constantly working on the next thing. But I learned this year especially that time spent with my friends and with the people that I love, and just time spent away from my desk not working on work things or homework, is just as productive. I'm really prone to overworking myself, which then leads to burnout, and then it just becomes a negative cycle, and I really tried my hardest to break that this year. Going on little trips, going out on the weekends, even if it was just going out to dinner quickly with a friend on a random Tuesday night, I really tried my best to do those things, and I found that when I sat back down to do real work, I was actually more productive. I honestly don't have that much to say in this regard. I have met the most incredible people over the last year. I think that's one of the parts of Harvard that I'm most thankful for, is just the diversity of thought and experience that I learn from every single day on a campus as global as Harvard's is. I also have very little experience in the romantic aspect of relationships. I'm good on advice for a lot of things. This is not one of them. I think the only real thing I have to add here, which is still valuable, is that not everyone is meant to be in your life forever, and that was a really hard pill for me to swallow for a long time. I think a lot of friendships and relationships are built on how you are feeling about yourself during a period of time, and so oftentimes you can outgrow certain friends or certain types of people based on certain growth that you have, and I, for one, don't think that's a bad thing at all. Sometimes life just sends people on different wavelengths and different paths, and I think it's so much more unhealthy to force a friendship or a relationship than to let it go, even if that's for only a period of time. I have two rapid fire things that I want to end off this video with that are incredibly random. Number one, bring every supplement, a vitamin, emergency packet, water bottle with you to college, because you are bound to get sick. College dorms are legitimately petri dishes, and it's kind of given in the college lifestyle that you're not going to have the best sleeping pattern, you're not going to have the best diet, so the least you can do is give yourself some boundary against sickness. My first semester of college, I had, I think, every single thing in the book. I had, and I quote, the worst case of strep throat my doctor's ever seen. I had the flu during finals week. I definitely had undiagnosed COVID at some point. Towards the end of the summer, I want to do some sort of dorm essentials / things you should bring to college with you type of video, so that will be an extension of this, but this is my one warning of the video: take your vitamins. If you take anything from this video, let it be this, and that is, find something that gets you out of bed in the morning. To each their own. I don't care what that is for you, but find something that excites you and truly gets you out of bed. For me, that was buying a coffee every single morning. I know a lot of people consider that a waste of money, but I so looked forward to getting up every morning, getting dressed, my walk to the cafe, talking with baristas. It just made me so happy. So find something like that, whatever it may be, and stick with it.